Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to address the SDG Business Forum once again in my capacity as Chair of the International Chamber of Commerce. A year ago, I spoke to the fact that business as usual was over. I said that we can no longer hope to thrive as businesses if we do not help our communities and planet thrive as well. And in the years since then, I think we've seen leaps of progress, setbacks of all kind, and frankly, anything but business as usual. For one, we continue to battle an evolving virus. And I applaud the work that has been done so far. Governments with the resources to weather this pandemic are moving mountains and parliaments to look out for their own populations, while also supporting countries that have had no choice but to bear the full brunt of the health, economic, and social consequences of this global crisis. We've also seen extraordinary relief efforts from governments, organizations, and individuals alike when caseloads in various regions have reached overwhelming numbers. But equitable vaccine distribution is nowhere near where it needs to be to put COVID in its place once and for all. Even with G20 level commitments to vaccine sharing and contributions from independent organizations like the MasterCard Foundation's $1.3 billion in support for vaccine distribution across Africa, even with all these efforts, there's still a long road ahead of us. The reality is that we are all inextricably connected and only as strong as our weakest link. The ICC Research Foundation report on vaccine equity projects $9.2 trillion of losses in GDP should governments fail to ensure developing economy access to COVID-19 vaccines. This pandemic will end for no one until it ends for everyone. And I fear that this past year, with its ebb and flow of travel restrictions and lockdowns, has revealed how much the international policy agenda relies on in-person meetings for consensus, for progress. But the challenges of the world will not wait for the pandemic to end. If anything, the pandemic is amplifying them. And that means we cannot afford to wait either. It is our job as advisors to industry and governments to peek around the corners in terms of uncertainty, set a path, and push forward. Now, peeking around the corners, seeing what's coming, that starts by training our eyes to see and understand the world through the lens of a triangle of considerations. On one side, there's inclusion, how we find ways to level the playing field for everyone, regardless of their gender, their background, their skin color, or anything else. On the other side, there's sustainability. This is about how we work with nature instead of against it. And at the base is the element that keeps the other two from crashing down. And this is the trade-off between short-term and long-term thinking. This is how we put the incentives for action and possible impacts into perspective. Now, setting the path then becomes a matter of real cooperation and commitments to equality and inclusion, climate change, and sustainability. And the push forward is where we do the hard work of addressing these issues by going after them with coordinated and collaborative solutions. And that starts with difficult conversations that will change the way we've always done things, but will create new ways of doing things that are more inclusive, more sustainable. When we do that, we can actually build a WTO of the future rather than just talk about the future of the WTO. We can remove the regulatory barriers to equitable vaccine distribution. We can lay the groundwork for shared and consistent standards for the climate, for trade, and for deeper international cooperation. Each of these, in turn, paves the way for a strong planet, stronger people, and therefore stronger possibilities for us and our children. But none of this will happen if we don't first put our shoulders to the wheel together, bring our capabilities, resources, ingenuity, technology, capital to the table and get to work. Friends and colleagues, The time for pomp and ceremony is over. The time for rolling up our sleeves and putting the world back into motion on a better track is right now. Thank you.